to the KKOA show, it seemed like we had the most fun at the hotel, sitting around telling stories. And that's where all the fun is. And so we had the idea of, why can't we do this at a car show? And so we tried it the last, I don't know how many years. I'm sure you can't tell how many years it is. We don't say it, two centuries. And it's worked out pretty good. And we're just sitting around talking about custom stuff. And so today I want to talk about KKOA and how important KKOA has been in our life, our hobby, not our life. I'm a Christian, so I can't put them with. So I want to talk about the first KKOA show you've been to. And I'll start tell you with mine. We 81 is when I started doing car shows. And I had a 57 Nomad, had a 55 Ford for years, a 55 Chevy for years, and I joined the Classic Chevy Clubs of America. I thought it was awesome. I got a magazine once a month. They had border jackets and all this kind of stuff, and I was just ate up with it. Then all of a sudden we heard about this show in Wichita that was going on. And I had three other guys I had a 57 Nomad and some other stuff, guys. And so we all just drove up there on a Saturday, and my dad booked a room for me because I was underage. I was 18. So we head out to Wichita, and it was mind-blowing. Here I am, used to go into a Classic Chevy Club that had concourse 57 convertibles, all original, and they wanted original boats and original everything. I respect all that. But all through school, I doodled all my homework and everything. I was a drawer, an artist, and all these cars were art I saw. And I didn't know what a Mercury was. I didn't know anything about that body. I was born in '62, and when I hear Bill and them telling stories about, man, it's so cool cruising in '62, I can't relate because I'm not.
You ain't that old yet. You were cruising.
I wasn't around. So apparently God let me watch what was going on. And so 1981, 1982 is very important to guys my age. I'm 60. And guys in the 50s and 60 years old. The early years of Kustom Camps America is our American Graffiti. That's our part of our life. And so when you see cars out here that were done back then, that means that's inspirational to us. And needless to say, is it Classics and Customs magazine was there? Is that the name of the magazine? I bought every back issue they had. I subscribed as long as I could. I was ate up with it. I'm from a non-car family. None of my family were into cars. It was transportation only. My grandfather was a farmer. The other one was an old guy, and so it was, you use your vehicle to make money working. So I didn't have any background. It was just when I went to that show, it was, wow, I want to be part of that. We stayed for the whole thing on Saturday. I went back to the hotel, and my friend was with me. He was 18, and we're cruising the parking lots. And at a hotel parking lot, when you have hundreds of customs parked around, and most of them looking like Bill, it's a little intimidating. Because there's a bunch of cool stuff going on. And I went to go check into my room. It was about 10:30 at night. They wouldn't let me check into my room. I was underage. Even though my dad called, used his card, everything else, they would not let me rent a room. So, young, full tank of gas, I turned around and drove home. And so today, if I'd have known, I'm going to use Bill's name again, Doug Reed, I knew he was there. All I would have to have said, would you help me get in my room, and you would have done it. But that's my short version of, and KKOA of all these years have really pushed the custom thing where it's a life changing in our hobby. Whereas we don't sit around behind our cars making sure everything's perfectly clean and dust free to win a trophy. Kustom Camps, even though they have just as nice as cars, it was the social thing. It was, oh, you chopped yours this way? Well, I've changed my headlights and I've done this and I've done that. And so that's my brief story of thanking Jerry and Devonna for starting the thing with Darryl Starbird's help. And does anybody have any stories about their first time they went to a Kustom Camp show? And if you don't, you see, I have no notes this year. So, okay.
I went to the Merc Deuce reunion in Wichita, I think in '84. Or,
84.
yeah, '84, yeah. Yeah, and that was awesome. I had just finished my Merc, chopped it, and took it. And,
What was it? Describe your Merc.
it's 49, chopped, Corvette yellow, flames. My daughter still got it.
Oh.
Yeah. I built it in the early '80s. And I sold it to a guy, and he sold it to somebody in Denver. And Ross Rodenbach was up in Denver one time, and he went into this diner, and there was a picture of this Mercury on it, of my Merc up on the wall. He took a picture of the picture, brought it back to my daughter, because she'd been looking for it. And her son-in-law worked for the sheriff's department, and they got the tag number off the car, and they found out who owned it in Denver. And she went up there to look at it. It was just exactly like it was. Hadn't even been driven for 20 years. Took her 3 years, but she finally ended up buying it back. And it's just like it was when I built it, and it's sitting in the garage.
That's awesome.
I've tried to talk her into bringing it down, but
Yeah, that's right. Rob, do you have something?
I'd started dating a girl, and we went down to it wasn't my first show there, but I was going down there, and I walked up, and I think it was Bill Hines and Dave Stuckey and a couple of guys were milling around down there, and I helped Dave quite a bit and grew up. He taught me quite a lot. But so I walked up and I said, hey, you got to meet this guy. This is Darryl Starbird. And I don't know who the other guy was with him, but he wanted to beat me up. So he's like, you know who you're talking to? And it was just the funniest thing. I was like, yep. And Dave grabbed him. He's like, yep. No. But it was just a funny story. But
No.
it was just one of those things. It was just like, yeah.
That's what's so neat about these legends that are out there. They're all approachable.
Yeah.
And because if it wasn't for KKOA, I wouldn't have ever met Bill Hines, Gene Winfields, and those kind of guys.
I've got a very, very personal connection with Bill Hines and Brad Masterson and Dave Stuckey and Barris. My car, my 51 Chevy, which everybody's on my butt. It's been tore apart for 5 years, but anyway, not yet. He needs to get off his butt, right? Anyway, in 05, the first year that they had KKOA in Salina, my Chevy was chopped by Bill, Brad Masterson, Stuckey. I got pictures of me and Stuckey sitting in the back window, and he's showing me how to hammer weld where we did the back window in my car. So that's not my first experience with KKOA, but that's my personal with the legends of that. And I became really good friends with Bill up until the day he died. If I had a question on something that I was customizing, I had his cell phone number. Now, it may have took a while for him to figure out how to use his cell phone, but he if he didn't answer, he usually called me back once he figured out how to use his cell phone. But that's a pretty special thing to have a car that's been done by legends like that, and I just hope that
I remember that one.
yeah that I can get it back and do it justice, and there's a lot of you guys here that I know would help me and stuff, but I need to get it done and get it back out. That's a pretty special car, and that's kind of what kind of helped me get to know some of y'all too. So, but then before all of that happened, and how I always call it the McPhail 40, the Flame 40. I always loved that car, and when they moved it back to Wichita in like 2000, I went there just to see if that car was there and stuff. So but I knew Dennis and Jeff Myers through a friend that used to work for Myers that now is the head guy, painting and body guy for a hot rod garage, Tom McDonald. He had a 63 Galaxy, and he still does, and that car is bitching. But we used to cruise up and down Santa Fe and Salina when he was going to Votech there, and we went to auto body school together. So I kind of got to know some of y'all through him too. So I tried. But yeah,
That was the show where I first actually watched Dave slap file.
yeah.
And
On my car?
Yeah,
Yeah.
on your car.
Yeah. That was
Yep.
probably where that picture, because he was showing me how to do
Yeah.
that up in the package tray. Yep. That was a pretty special moment.
Another thing I want to talk about, and I don't have some agenda. So another little subject, if you all have something that hits you, please let us know, because I'm a boring person to listen to. My wife tells me every night. You recorded that, didn't you, Travis? It's true, I am boring.
All right, well, I'm going to film myself here. Going back to Bill Hines and his cell phone. We're at Darryl's for the Hall of Fame induction, and I don't remember what year it was, but it was the year that Tim Strange got in. And in the middle
A
of
year after my car was done.
Darryl was doing this, here's all this stuff that Tim's done, and it was just this very flowery big deal, and it was just building up to, here's our new inductee. And the loudest cell phone ring I've ever heard starts going off. And going off. And going off. And this is in Darryl's backyard. It was dark. We didn't have lights, so we had trucks sitting there with their headlights pointing at his back deck, so we had some kind of light there. And this phone must have rang 5, 6, 7 times. Finally, we pick it up, you just hear, hello? Well, yeah, no, we're still in Oklahoma. I'm here with all the big wigs. Darryl's talking. I'll call you later. And that was the end of it. So I've got that on audio somewhere because I was recording the whole deal that night, so we could. I need to actually put that out on the podcast sometimes. There's some kind of funny laughs in there, but it was a good one. Another 105-degree night in Oklahoma.
I was driving back from Florida and on family vacation, and I was thinking about why do we don't see as many Kustoms out there anymore? Because at one time at Salina, in KKOA's days, it seemed like thousands. Everyone had a Kustom. And so I've always said that Kustoms aren't expensive, because sometimes I hear that young people can't afford them because they're too expensive. And so Gary Mundy I mentioned Jerry Titus, I like to throw out names. Gary Mundy has kind of trained me, and he's always taught me is your own labor's cheap. And so if you can build it yourself or do whatever, your labor, you can do it yourself. And so I went to the Ham Drags one year, and there's a 50 Chevy, I think a 53 Chevy that parked beside me up to the drags. And I hadn't seen the cars before, they were in process. And I talked to each one of them, and they were in their high 20s, low 30s, never chopped a car in their life. One of them never welded before, and they YouTubed it and taught them how to chop these cars. And these cars have a nice chop on them, just about 3 inches. They didn't get to extremes. And so they self-taught that. When I heard that years ago, I was thinking, it's cheap to build a Kustom. You can do it if you do it yourself. You can do it that way. You don't have to take it to, the bitch and ride guy, and they charge you $250,000 to get in there, whatever. You can do it yourself, and Clayton's a prime example of that. But then I started thinking, coming over, I've been to some salvage yards with Gary Mundy, and he'd be working on a project, and we'd go to Bobby Henderson's, some other salvages, and you had your choice. I need a back window. Well, you can just go out there, and they had all these shells, and you found something that worked, they'd cut it out, you paid $50, and you went home and welded it up. And God, or the light of, or maybe this is Florida's beach, said those salvages are no longer there. And so people ask me all the time, what's that car worth? And I'll say, oh, it's probably worth $20,000. Well, I see it sell for $60,000. And I'm thinking, I'm a small town Dewey boy that has no reality. But for someone that wants to build their own car, they need a back window from a 49 O's. you're going to have to spend thousands to get that 49 Olds and cut it up, which is not probably the smartest thing to do, just for that back window. So I think our main problem is not young people building cars, it's they're having to form all this themselves. So I was thinking about my journey, and I had a really ugly 55 Chevy and back in the day, and I joined the Classic Chevy Club, and so I had to have things stocked, and I went to my first show, and there was this high dollar 55 Chevy there, and he fired it up, and it was the loudest screeching noise I've ever heard in my life, and I had a 350 in mine, and I thought, man, that sounds cool. So I walk over there, and I'm 17, 18 years old. I said, man, tell me about your car. Why does it sound that way? He said, I went and bought Ferrari mufflers. And I said, really? He said, yeah, it's Ferrari mufflers. He wrapped it up, and boy, it was just a high pitched noise and stuff. And so I went for a long time thinking that if you put Ferrari mufflers on a 55 Chevy, that sounds that way. And I don't know who I said that to, but they finally said, Mickey, they were teasing you. It's a 6-cylinder with dual exhaust. So I had to have one. I had to dump my 350 out, and I had to go find me a 6-cylinder. My mom is listening to Consumer Calls. It's our local Barstool radio. And we're out playing sports, and Mom happened to hear this 55 Chevy's for sale for $150. It's in the backyard, doesn't run. And so after we got through with the day, we didn't get in a hurry. We called the old boy, said, yeah, I got it in my backyard. And my dad went with me, and we went out and looked at it. It's a 55 4-door, just like what I had. And it had a 6-cylinder in it. And I thought, well, I'll just take that motor out and put it in mine. It's just sitting there, you know. So we get a tow strap, and we tow it back to town, about 12 miles, which I'm sure you've all tow strapped a car before. That's fun with your son and your dad. So we get home, and I throw a battery in it, and it runs. I'm driving it around for $150, and I just think this is great. I drive mine to the local mechanic, and I drive my 55 in there, and I said, I want to switch these motors out. Did not realize the labor involved, but I had me a 6-cylinder, and I believe it was the same one in there for a long time. That opportunity's not there anymore. I wish I would have bought, I don't know how many cars for $150 back then. And I know that you've all come across those kind of deals too. If you'd like to share some of your stories, I would like to hear them, because the younger people don't have that opportunity.
I don't have the costume, I've got the rusty old pickup out there.
Yeah.
It's a frame swap. But I started out working in a wrecking yard. My dad worked there. And my job as an 11 or 12-year-old, that's where I learned to drive. They'd buy a car and said, Bob, go get in it, drive it out to so-and-so on the back. You get in and grind it until you found the gear to go. But my job was to stand at a vise all summer long, 44 hours a week, for $5, and chop copper out of armatures, probably a Model T, you name it. That was back in the early 50s. And what we would give to have those pieces of hardware today.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But spent all summer long chopping copper, the commutator bars, and chop it off below that and suck all the copper out so they could recycle it. But that's my introduction to old cars,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. I'm a little older than you.
I just look younger.
But you know, today, I mean, there's still cars out there. They're not 150 anymore.
Right.
Okay, so maybe they're 1,500 or 3,500, or unfortunately, the TV shows have created this idea that they're worth their weight in gold. But it is amazing, you know, if you go hard enough and you look hard enough, you can find stuff.
Yeah.
You know, but you got to hunt. It's you just got to really work it.
Well, it's getting harder to find. That's that kind of thing, and the only way I could do it is I had to drive it to work, and I couldn't afford insurance on 3 cars. My wife she had a real car, but you got to drive it, and so on these mild customs, and I had a guy that came to our show for the first time. he was told all of his life he never had a Kustom. And mild Kustoms are overlooked because you don't have to have a chopped Merc. You know, you don't have to have a chopped Cadillac. It doesn't have to be chopped and sectioned and channeled. And Doug Reed's Ford is a prime example of that. Your T-Bird is a prime example of change around the tail lights, change, you know, do some grill work, knock off some stainless you don't need on there, and that's a mild Kustom. And anyone, I have zero talent. Well, maybe with some help of some friends, I can get there. But I gotta be willing to drive the car every day. And it's that, anyway, that's a good escape from life. Instead of driving the Isuzu. Do they make Isuzus anymore? Have you heard of Isuzu, Clay? Okay, good.
There's a couple of them out shopping.
I'm not talking that old.
Well, talking about the cars are still out there and they can be affordable if you find the right deal. We driving up here, the 100-mile garage sales, and we were driving along and I seen old cars and parts sitting on the side of the road with a sale sign. So I about get rear-ended, pull into a stop to pull into this driveway, walk up there and I'm wearing my Stray Cat shirt and he's like, "Oh, you one of them Stray Cat guys?" I'm like, "Yeah, proud of it." He goes, "Well, I got some stuff back here that you might want to look at." So I was like, "Okay, cool." So we're walking around back there and he's got a 55 Buick 4-door hardtop sitting in the back. Chassis done, the motor's done. Now probably gonna have to be rebuilt because it looks like it sat in the water for a little bit, the motor did. But anyway, all the brakes, everything. Body on this car is beautiful, but the floor pans are rotted out of it. The guy goes, "If somebody would give me $350, they can have this whole thing." So I may be coming back in a couple of weeks to pick it up because
you need another one.
I need another one. Yeah, I've got one sitting on a rotisserie. I've got a 51 Mercury that's, yeah. I need another one. But for $350, I can drag it out. And well, and thing to help with the younger guys is Mark. Last year we came down for one of Gino Walker's chop top classes, and Mark was gracious enough to pay my 16-year-old nephew's way through the class. And that meant a ton to my nephew, and he really, he loves Kustoms, but he's young, so but he sticks with that, but he always remembers and he always talks about that, and that's one thing too that helps with this younger generation to keep it going is guys like Mark that are willing to help out in something like that, and that meant the world, and that made that kid, you know, he really appreciates it. He even every time he sees him, first thing he's like still thanks him for it, but then he asks about his Suburban because he loves that thing.
You know, but just maybe not shooting for the moon up front too. You know, you mentioned a 49 and 51 Merc. Who wouldn't want one? Okay, but you get the realization there's only so many out there, and you only got so much money and so forth. But you start looking at all the unknowns, and now they're starting to become knowns. The Rivieras, the early Rivieras, the Thunderbirds, and you can look at all those years, and they were custom from the factory.
Right.
You know, so you get into those, and you start doing the mild and so forth, and it starts the passion.
Right. And once you get bid, it's.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I put you on the spot, Doug?
Yeah,
Okay. Tell me how you got your old. How'd you get the tow?
well, first got married in '66, and we needed an extra car because we both had jobs. And driving home one day, I saw a 50 old station wagon sitting in a small car lot, used car lot. So I stopped, look at it. The guy wanted $150 for it. So I bought it, drove it to work and back. I had a friend that was in the building Oldsmobile Motors. He built a 57 motor for me. We put it in it. So I drove it for a couple of years, and
I spun an axle in it, and I couldn't get the axle out. And I called him, and he came over and tried with me to get the axle out, and
This is where they tell all
we
the
just
boys
couldn't get it out.
about customs.
Sorry, we have royalty coming in.
How are you?
Good to see you.
Nice seeing you. It's okay. I'm gonna fix it. Hi, how are you? I just asked you about you.
Okay, let's do
Is it safe?
Yeah.
Well, there's too many men. Come on now.
You need somebody to keep us in line, Devon, come on.
Want to sit in? Hi, Kenny, how may I help you?
Hi, Jerry.
I think I bought the last $200 car Bill Daniels ever sold. I bought that 52 Mercury off of him and built that one. Used to go to Mercedes.
Yep.
Every time you had one.
Yep.
And Jerry said the last one you gotta have a bathtub. I kept telling him, that 52 probably came out in September of 51. So that's when I bought my 50 Merc. Built it, took it to the last Merc new. Drove it for years. Sold it here a couple, 3 months ago. And you should have been outside a while ago. He went down, took me down to the house and got me to come back in it.
Oh, cool.
I got the ride in it.
Very
So
good.
he lives right here?
At the Mark Dish, the last Mark Dish reunion,
Yeah.
we had the craziest storm that I'd ever seen. We had horizontal rain. The motel rooms, there was water in the rooms from blowing in through the window.
Yeah.
And anyway, we were on our way home, and I was following Bill in his Mercury, and he blowed out a tire. No spare. Don't need them. Anyway, so we pulled over to the ditch, jacked it up, got the tire off of it, drove into, I don't know, probably 30 miles into this farm implement place on Sunday afternoon, and got a tire. Come back, put it on, and I was following him to go back in there.
We left the women and things.
And he was driving down the road, and probably we were running through the hills pretty good. Next thing I know, you can't see him. Headliner pulled down in the car. He was in there going like this, sailing down the road. So we had some trip on that same trip. The power valve in my '56 Buick on the Holly had gone bad, so I stopped. And that was before that, wasn't it? Because and I pulled the fuel bowls off, and I lost a screw out of the fuel bowl. Couldn't find that thing. We looked. I pushed that car around everywhere and couldn't find it. So I went in, bought a carburetor, put the carburetor on it, and then we left. And it was in 2002. I changed engines in that '56 Buick, and that screw was laying in the cross member. Right down there, just below the control arm. And it had rode to Ford, it rode everywhere. Stayed there, so. But it was,
Them are memories.
huh?
Them are good memories.
Yes, they are.
But that ain't the only one, though. There's been about this many.
Oh, yeah.
Labor.
We've done a lot of stuff. We were going to Fort Smith.
Yeah.
And and we were running at Sallisaw, Oklahoma. There's guardrails, and we were coming there, and here come this truck, and it's a sheetrock truck, and had one of them little fork trucks on it that wasn't tied down. And we were running about 70 miles an hour, and I see him coming up, and there's nowhere to go, and that truck come off, and went under the front end of the car, and went clear down the side of it, got the leg pipe, and turned, the handle turned, put a crease in the rear quarter, and went on and blew a radio and stuff. Well, I called the police, and we set off to the side of the road, and got to Fort Smith, and pulled in, went to shut the car off, and it just, bam. I thought, what's that? And it just locked up. So I got out, checked the oil, and it was way over full, had antifreeze in it, and it broke a piston. And so we were on our way back, borrowed a truck and trailer, took it back to town, took it back to town, and Hub and Gloria was coming, and Gloria's car, and Hub saw that vehicle on that trailer, and he was just, I mean, he was going crazy in that thing, seeing that, because the only time you'd ever see one of my cars on a trailer
Yeah.
was either a project getting it home, or it was broke, and that was the second time, that was the first time it had ever been on a trailer. And then when we were down here for the 500, one of the rear axle bearings was bad, and so I put it on a tow truck and took it home.
Oh, but
I remember that.
But we, yeah, we
You
built
went
that.
home, did you come back?
Yeah, we came back,
Yeah.
yeah. And it rained all weekend that weekend.
Oh, yeah, I know.
But that was a cool show.
Yeah, I love those.
The funny thing
But
about
all that stuff's gone now.
I know.
All of that stuff's
I
gone.
know, they tore that King's Road.
The only thing that's still there in Fort Smith is Ed Walker's drive-in, and you can still
Oh,
get
it
that.
is? With
You
the
can
big
still
thing?
get that 5-pound
Oh,
hamburger.
really?
And Bruno, wasn't it? He'd come and he'd eat 1.5 of them by himself.
Oh, I know.
And he wasn't very big. I mean, he wasn't a very big guy. He'd get 1.5 of them by himself.
Did that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, the Burgess reunion without, I went in, that's the first time I had a Merc to go to it. And Gary Mundy and some of those guys, I was gonna go up with them. And we ended up having 4 or 5, I don't know if Bill, I don't know if you were with us and they're not, but we had quite a few in our group. And my Merc was running really good then. And so I had air actually. And I'm following Gary Mundy. And we're doing back roads. I mapped it out. We could be there today. And we're doing 45, 50 mile an hour, just manage along, just going real slow. And I was new to the Kustom thing. And I'm thinking, let's go. I want to get there. I want to go see Mercs, you know, that's just Merc heaven. And Gary taught me an important lesson. I think it took us, I don't know how far it is from here.
Was
I
it
think took-
Davenport?
Davenport. I think it took us 16 hours.
Oh,
Probably to
gosh.
get there, because we stopped by everybody, we stopped by all the things. Our first stop, it took us 2 days. The first stop, no one made any reservations. My mom trained me as you be prepared, you make reservations, you know exactly where you're gonna stop. And it's 10:30 at night, and we can't find a room at this one town, and I'm pissed. I'm not happy. And so I said, Gary, what are we gonna do? Oh, we'll find a place. So we start heading out of town, it's dark again. We left at 6 in the morning, it's 11 o'clock at night, and all of a sudden there's this hotel over here. It's an old 40s, 50s style hotel, U-shaped, playground in the center,
Yeah.
Ma and Pa owned. We pull in there and there's nobody staying there. And $35 a night. And so Gary said, we can stay together. And I said, no. I can afford $35. I've had enough of y'all. And so it was the ideal location. And on the way back, I hadn't learned my lesson yet. I followed them for 4 or 5 hours. And I decided, guys, I'm getting on the interstate, I'm heading home. And so I buzzed on home. But what he taught me is the important part of these car shows, a lot of times, just the drive to the shows. And it's such a spiritual experience. It's like, kind of like when you get older, you enjoy mowing the yard. It's a time to pray. It's a time to be able to think about life. And now, if you follow me, like Jim's been with me before, I may be driving 45, 50 sometime, not paying attention to anything in the world, and just enjoying the experience of owning something that's old. And so, another thing I was wanting to share with you all is sometimes we don't realize how blessed we are on owning what we have. And because of all the TV shows and all the things that come up for sale, and you look at what we drive, look at what I drive, you're thinking, man, I could have so much better car than what I have. And I was running late to going to a show, and I was in my 39, running back roads like Gary Money would be proud of me. And I pulled into a gas station at Casey's, and so I get gas, I run to go to the bathroom because I'm getting older, and this lady comes in the front door and says, sir, is that your car out there? I said, yeah, that's my car. She said, don't leave. I said, okay. So I go out to the car, and I'm ready to get to the show, and no lady. And so I'm checking them, kind of looking around and looking over, and all of a sudden she yells out the door, I'm almost ready, I'll be right there. And I said, okay, I'm here. Another 5 minutes goes by. And I'm waiting on this lady. She finally comes out, she gets in her car. I said, well, she's forgot about me. She gets in her car, pulls around, says, I'll be right there. She went and moved it to the shade. And she walks around my car and touches every fender, just like this. And I mean, every little thing. I said, she's having a little spiritual thing here going. And she started sharing stories with me. When she was in high school, she dated a guy with a 3940 sedan. And she asked, it's got the old flathead in it? I said, no, it's got a 350, but it's still got the tractor front end, straight axle. And she started just having to, oh, I'm sure glad you waited on me. I haven't seen one of these in years. And so it taught me again is when we're traveling back and forth, or just on a daily drive, if someone acknowledges you, take time to share what you do, share your blessing with them. Because one thing, it may lead them, I don't think that lady took her car, I don't think she might be above that age. But there may be some younger people that you might be able to inspire to build something. And be thankful for what we have. Even though the thing's a piece of crap and it doesn't start half the time. We're still blessed.
Yeah, we are.
That's one thing that I enjoyed about when I still had a car on the road is Travis's December cruise. Man, that thing is the best time you can have. I mean, we had some good times, some good cruisings, and then the time when we all got together and it was Jeff Myers and Lucky, the interior guy, and all of us. We did the Kansas boys plus an Okie.
Sorry.
It's all good. We had a ball. But just cruising around and seeing some of the things that I didn't know existed in my home state. And it was just like, it's awesome to do cruises like that, and like you said, and enjoy the cars. And I kind of sometimes wish there was more of those where we just drove instead of having a car show, because I just more about the people to me. I care less about the car. I work on them all the time. I don't want to look at them anymore. but
It's a reunion.
Yeah.
Meeting all your friends.
yeah, but the cruising around and driving in them and some of the things you see, you know, I'm on a different aspect of it too, as I kind of into the drag racing side of things, and I've gotten into these drag and drive events where you drag race your car and drive it to tracks and stuff, and that's another thing to where it's phenomenal, because you're driving your car and every gas stop or every checkpoint is like a car show, and you got tons of people there, just like out in front of Travis's shop. You can see the good times they had. But yeah, that is, like you said, just that's something that's really cool about having these old cars, is just the driving them. Heck, you see Rob driving his old truck everywhere anymore, and it's great to see that, you know.
Can you share something? Everybody knows Jimmy.
Who are you?
I've known Jimmy for a long time. He showed up at the Carl Lamar show, and I think James was just born.
James was 2 weeks old.
Yeah.
He's at college now.
And now I'm starting to feel old because now he's in college, and he's helped me a lot. Jimmy had a good experience with this Camaro. I hate to say Camaro, but it's okay. It's still a car. Share about your experience with your on a trailer. I mean, not on trailer, but just doing the horsepower test.
Oh yeah, took it on the
That's a neat story to share.
Hot Rod Power Tour. You know, been on several of them, and the Camaro. I mean, we're just Clarissa and I. You know, we've been married maybe 5-6 years, something like that. You know, we're broke, barely got enough money to go to a couple stops. And down at Comp Cams in Memphis, they had a day off back when they had a break day in the middle of the power tour, and put it on the chassis dyno, and proceeded. I mean, there was a lot of people. It sounded really good. Sounded better than it ran, you know, but it sounded good. A lot of people followed in. I mean, there's probably 200 people that followed it in there whenever we backed it in on the dyno, and it proceeded to break the transmission like in half, twisted the transmission, drive shaft goes flying, catches on fire, all that stuff. And I'm just sitting here looking at it and like, well, it's a slow fire, so it's a fluid fire. And then I'm like, it's on fire, you know, where's the fire extinguisher? And you know, everybody's hitting the ground and flying, running out and everything. And I'm just sitting there looking at it and trying to figure out how we're going to get home, because I don't have the money. And one of the guys from Comp Cams, which I'm really good friends with now, he came over and he said, we're going to get you taken care of. And this happened at like 3 o'clock. And I was back at the hotel at 8 o'clock at night. We had the thing put back together. He went and got, they got a transmission, a rebuilt transmission, a torque converter, had a drive shaft made, all the parts. He gave me a guy to help. We just pulled it over off to the side, and we yanked the transmission out and used his tools. That was very, there's one toolbox that was almost like a cardboard box. It's just everything dumped into, which you'd think a place like Comp Cams would have a little bit more organization, but it was like the rest of our garages. But anyway, he said, now you're going on the rest of the tour with us, and you're going to be parking in our tent. I'm like, you're going to, I think somewhere in Florida. I can't remember where it was, but we're going to Florida. So I ended up having to try to figure out how to get there. But the point of the story is how many people I met and how many good friendships I have now because of the adversity, and people just willing to help. And I got a lot of good friends now just through that experience and driving, and going to what you were saying about driving the cars. I mean, our Cross Members Car Club, we do a cruise that's 100-mile cruise that we go around, and the event is the cruise. We'll park at the end of the event and have lunch, but the event is the cruise. It's not sitting around looking at cars, kicking tires in the lawn chairs and under the easy ups. It's driving. And I mean, so that's we build them to drive. So have fun. Enjoy the people. Just driving here today. We got out late because Carson had a football game and didn't get home till after midnight last night. And just cruising here today. It's just a beautiful day. Just cruising down the road. Developed an oil leak, so my windshield's getting oil mist on it from something, I don't know what, but still fun. Still a great day.
It's heated Renee and I went to the Emergency Reunion in '84. That was the first time Renee was experienced with KKOA. And I was old enough, I was married, and we had a room. I was able to stay someplace. So we spent the weekend and had a good time. And so Renee understood my fascination with KKOA. And we could never afford to go anywhere because we had young kids, and we were blessed when Renee could stay home and raise the kids, and I worked, and so they used to set up at the Arc City Car Show, the last run, and so they always had their leftover shirts there, and that's when I took advantage. I could buy shirts from, I could wear this shirt. It looked like I went to Pennsylvania. I was really acting cool, and I bought 2 or 3 shirts from him and everything, and I think this was shortly after the Emergency Reunion. And I think Jerry knew I was poor. He could tell. And as I was walking away, he said, "Hey, let me give you something." And he threw me a hat pin. He gave me a hat pin. And that meant the world to me. Because struggling, doing what I was doing, having someone that at the time I thought was God on the Kustom side, because he was in all the magazines that, the Spectacular was hitting the Street Rodder magazines, Kustom Rodder magazines, and man, Jerry Titus was at this car show, and he gave me a hat pin. And I hope one of these days I can find that hat pin. I wish I still had it. But it was kind of, the reason I'm sharing that with you is sometimes it's just the small little things that we can do that plants a seed. And if it wasn't for Jerry and Devonna and Gary Mundy and Gita, I wouldn't have met you all. I'd be stuck in a boring trike, a classic shitty club with my nice little embroidery jacket and pants, whatever, and being bored out of my mind. And so look for opportunities to inspire somebody. Car show with Voodoo Jim. We were at Winfield Car Show. It's a small show Doug Drennan put on. And I parked beside Jimmy, and he had his Model A there, and the doors are open. And here comes this kid, and he's looking all over the car, and he did not want to get in. Jimmy said, "Oh, get in there. It's okay." Well, all of a sudden, 11 kids show up. And I didn't think 11 kids would fit in a Model A coupe. But all 11 were in there, and the car was moving around and stuff like that, and they're hitting all the buttons and stuff. But who knows? maybe one or two of those kids are decided, I don't want to do that. No, they want to build a hot rod. But I guess I want to share that. We look for opportunities to keep our hobby going.
Travis does a good job with his YouTube videos on that too, because when he first started his channel, he would talk about, you know, take a kid to a car show, because he was taking, like I was, taking my nephews, taking his nephews, and we were trying to get the seed planted. Well, now, you know, like you said, sometimes you don't see many customs or even hot rods at shows anymore. And he's like, don't let this bother you. Don't let this bother you. Go to a car show, enjoy yourself, get your cars out, do something. Let's keep this sport and this family alive. And that's awesome that he does that.
Oh, yeah.
He says that every video. And I watch every one of them. I probably should be in my garage, but I'm watching videos and everybody else.
You could put a TV in your garage and watch them there too.
Hey, that's an idea. I've got one in there. I
That's
just
what I've
don't.
done.
Yeah, I need to fix mine to do that now. So.
Let me say, on behalf of my wife here, Lavonna, there wouldn't be no KKOA without her.
Oh, without all that.
And without
Long
her
time, long.
at my side when I talked it over with her first before I went out and did it. And so
It was,
after she agreed that we could possibly do something like Custom Kim, the reason I even brought it up there to her was I'd helped Darryl, we all know Starbird, and I helped Darryl since I was 16 years old, and I'd go down there and hang around the shop, and him and I became very close friends, and then her and Darryl's wife became good friends. So we started going out to have dinners and things.
but you really got hooked after 1979, your Mark Deuce reunion. Seen all them
Well,
Mercuries.
Yeah, right.
Deuces, that's before we drew in the friends.
When
Had to
I
fight 'em on that.
I must wake up in the morning thinking about this stuff, but when I did originally think about doing the Merc Deuce reunion, I first called Darryl, and I have a lot of respect in him, and I told him, I said, I'd like to meet you down at Pizza Hut. I got something I want to throw at you and see what you think. And so I did, and after I gave him my spill, he said, Jerry, there ain't 100 Mercuries in this world. At that time.
They tried to talk him out of
And
it.
he wouldn't talk me out of it, basically, is what it was done. And I said, well, I'm sick and tired of the Mercuries and the true custom cars that's in America, not getting any respect at all. They didn't get it like I wanted it to. And so I did know one thing in my mind. I knew the only way when you were in high school that if you didn't have the coolest car in the parking lot, you didn't get the children. Think about that for a minute. And that's the truth. But, and she was,
No, I wasn't
she
at you.
wasn't.
We were looking at
But
somebody else.
anyway, what I'm trying to get Joe to is that Mickey here has been one of the biggest spark plugs in Devon and I's life that really has taken what we started with, and he's kept his part of it. And he is just as strong as I'll ever be, and I'm so proud of him. And because he's dedicated to the custom cars, let's face it, that's what it's all about. And ain't a better guy in the world, as far as I'm concerned, than Mick.
Well, thank you, Jerry. I wish I said nicer things about you.
Well, one thing I do want to, everybody's telling a little story.
Oh, don't let
Here.
everybody talk, you'll be here all day.
I mean, you can get up and leave if you want to, but how many of you here, I know you all do, know of oh, you know who I mean. Well,
Just when everybody else talk, you might say something.
well, Ed Roth.
Oh,
How
that's
many of you know Ed Roth?
everybody's heard your story.
No,
Ed Roth.
If anybody got any stories, pipe in there.
I feel very privileged that one weekend that I was working down at Starbird's shop there on a Saturday, and I was in the paint booth back there when he was on Mount Vernon. And I come out, and there was Ed Roth standing there. And they'd pumped him up, Darryl and Dave Stuckey. And Ed Roth goes, "Is that Jerry Titus?" And I'm like, "What?" And I said, "This can't be the real McCoy here, not Ed Roth." And I stood there in trance, more or less. He come towards me, and he said, "Jerry, I've been looking for you forever." And I said, "Oh God, he's going to pound me. He's going to pound me." Well, I just didn't say anything. I couldn't. And so he said, "Do you know why I'm here?" And I said, "No, sir." He said, "Darryl and I have got hooked up, and we're going to feature our cars in 12 different car shows throughout America. And we're needing a guy to drive one day for me and one day for Darryl." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well," he said, "come out here." And I went out there, and there was this brand new Cadillac, and it was hooked to a trailer. And he had the big car in there that we know of, you know. So it was in there, and I was in awe because, you know, I was still a kid, and I still was wondering, what the crap? Ed Roth says, I've been reading them in all the magazines I know. I thought he was a wild and crazy guy. And so we got over that era there, and so Darryl had hooked it up with that big company back east that put on car shows, and they still do today. Big, can't remember who they are. Remember who they are?
ISCA?
ISCA, yeah. Well, they gave Darryl $500 a show for those 12 shows, and gave Ed $500 for each one of those shows. And so Darryl had just went down, and he told me, he said, "What are you doing, Jerry?" And I said, "Oh, I'm just not then. One day at work." He said, "I'm gonna go downtown and buy a brand new Buick." And he bought one of those big, nice Buicks, 59, 10. And he bought it, and I drove the other car back to the shop. He drove that down and drove right into one of the pits there and started working on it. So he built that Buick up, painted it candy blue and everything, and made the cover with some of the magazines, you know. So what I want to do is get back to this trip. And so I wasn't married at the time, I was dating Devonna. But
No, you broke our engagement up to go with Darryl. I had to give the
That
ring back.
wasn't cool. That was a big no-no, Jerry.
No, the trouble is he came back.
You have really been blessed that she put up with you.
she just never forgets.
That's no joke.
But anyway, here I was in awe of his Cadillac and everything. But up on the dashboard was a hot dog laying up there on the dashboard. And I thought, well, okay, hot dog on the dashboard. And keep in mind, he lived in California, we were living in California then. So we took off, both of us, that next day. And I drove for Darryl, and Darryl drove for Ed first. And so, after a day or two, I think the first show was up in some state.
Right.
And what had happened is we'd go to the show, and I was kind of the gopher kid that would help Ed unload his stuff and put it at his booth, and then I definitely helped Darryl because I was working for Darryl. And I'd help him set up. So, okay, we got everything done the first show, the nice show, it was great, fantastic. We took off, loaded up, took off for the next show. And we did the next show. And finally, on the third show, I was driving for Ed, and I said, Ed, what's with the hot dog on the dash? It was still there after 3 weeks, laying up there on his brand new Cadillac deal. Oh yeah, I bought that down in Arizona, and he said, I just kind of keep it around until I get hungry. And here my hero is a guy I don't even, never met. So, anyway, I said, okay. And I didn't ask him why.
Right.
And so.
It's like a spare tire in the trunk,
Yeah.
just in case
right.
you need it.
Then we'd go along, but we'd stick together pretty good. Ed would follow us. And we'd stop and eat dinner somewhere. And we'd be sitting at our table, and we'd order our food, and Darryl paid for all my food, you know, since I was working for him. And I'd eat my stuff, and I'd get it done, and I'd kind of lean back, and Ed would go, are you gonna eat that, Jerry? Are you gonna eat the rest of that?
Aaron
And I
enjoyed
said,
that.
no, I don't think so. He said, can I have it? I said, do what? Yeah, and he'd drink it right kid off, boy, he'd eat every bit of that stuff. And he did that more than once. He was an animal-like guy. So,
Somebody else.
We're going to wrap it up.
okay,
I'm sorry,
I'll
Jerry.
get to it real quick.
No, you finished.
Yeah, I can tell everybody this same story. Bottom line is, Ed Roth was one of the nicest guys.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you about the
No,
night
he wants
we.
to wrap this up.
Okay, it's only take 5 minutes.
Okay. We got 5 minutes.
Ed got $500 to show his car, and Darryl got $500. So what we do for when we stay in a motel, which we flip a coin. There's 3 of us, and there's only one bed about this size in the motel. It's a little bitty then. And we'd flip a coin up and see the third man out would sleep on the floor. And the other two would have to sleep in the bed together. Well, luck off me. First night I got hooked up with Ed Roth. And I had to sleep with him.
Okay.
And I had to sleep with him.
Did you hear?
Just a minute. This is the final. I walked in. Ed was a 250-pound man, and I was a 150-pound boy. And he was restless. And he'd smash me up against the wall and everything. And finally, I got fed up with that happening.
Here, Jerry, they're gonna give the awards, he's got the.
All right, I'm gonna get
You
it.
just
Thank
said
you for
that.
sharing that.
Funny.
That's something that we can't, you don't have that experience around anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
Just a couple announcements we're gonna do. We're gonna do the awards at 2, and I think we're judged pretty much everything ready. We're gonna do a birthday little thing for Gita. She turned 80 this weekend. I don't think she's aware of it. Renee's baked some cookies and some cupcakes. The cookies are awesome. The cupcakes are Walmart, so they're okay. But we're gonna do a little birthday party for her and sing to her, and then we'll do the awards. We'll try to be out of here by 2:30 at the latest. And then if you all want to stick around, I've got it shut down till 4. It's a beautiful day. I appreciate y'all coming, and it means so much that you two, and Carl, and I'm sorry. It's you've made my weekend knowing you two showed up.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I got
awesome.
one more thing
Okay.
to add. So speaking of what Jerry said about you, keeping the whole thing going, promoting Kustoms, and Mark got a hold of me and he found something really cool that you'll really dig. And we were trying to decide what to do with it, so he had it lettered up, and it's a Chevy hardtop, 4-door hardtop.
Oh, wow.
Read it.
Yeah, so he had it lettered up this morning, keeping the Kustoms alive.
well deserved.
I did. Thank you, Mark. I'm a hugger, sorry. My wife gets tired of it. Well, sorry guys, that's it. I hope you all enjoyed it. I think it's fun to hang out and visit. And we plan on doing a lot more of it. And thanks, Mark.
Good.
It means-
You're welcome.
So.